Hello, hello, hello. I'm back. Claudia, do we have you?
100%. I am here on the ones and twos. I just made that up. I don't know what a one or a two is.
I, I have to be honest. I do hope you know what a one or a two is, just in general.
Well, in general, sure, but in specificity. Also, how did we just lose two audience members? You had five, and now you're down to three. I don't know what just happened.
Well, one of them was like a. No, they're still there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's the
Well,
same.
it's
I
exciting. It's
don't know.
beautiful to see. I'm excited for the presentation of the woke clock.
Indeed. Welcome to Gaming4Justice. I'm Maya Mama. I'm here with Claudia Alick. And so today, what's on the agenda is we are going to first we're gonna do a brief recap of what happened week before last on Unavowed, and then we're gonna go into the woke clock. We're gonna talk a little bit about the woke clock and what that is. Then we're gonna play the game for a little bit. I do hope that everyone enjoys Unavowed this week. So this week we are on Wall Street with, let's see, with Logan and Maya, our
And Logan
main
is that really
character.
cute black guy,
Yeah,
right?
with the talks to the ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Ghost
And
talking hot black guy.
and we're also going to talk about and then but he's with sorry, I don't know why I'm forgetting names. What's his face? The fire mage. I want to say his name is Ethan, but I don't think that's his name. It starts with an
Eli?
E.
Isn't it
Yes,
Eli?
it is Eli.
I'm learning the character names.
Look
I'm
at,
excited.
I'm so proud of you, cause and embarrassed of myself, but not that embarrassed. So yes, so Eli Beckett and Logan, last name unknown, and Maya, last name unknown, are on Wall Street. There is a missing baby, and um, and a very sad mom. There's a ghost of a banker, and there is a man who is ranting and raving across the street from the bank, and he knows something. Something is up with him. He knows something about the kidnapping of the baby, and so I guess our so we're gonna jump into that. But
I
first,
I gotta say, I was shocked that this game, this video game that you've been playing,
mm-hmm.
was sparking so many thoughts about anti-capitalism, thoughts about race, thoughts about the police, because it's a game that's about magic. So I was surprised.
I think your sound is going in and out. Can you repeat what you said?
Oh, I just said I was surprised that it was so much fun.
It is fun and it's interesting. I think it's really well written, and I appreciate the representation in it. Um, and also it's fun to look at the New York cityscapes and whatnot and the places that they go to, because they're real places, and the artists that make the backdrops and whatnot, uh, um, they're making real places, which is really fun. In a previous game, it had a scene on the High Line, which is a park in New York City, and I went there like a couple of years later, and I was very excited to be there, because I was like, I saw this in a game, and it looks exactly the same. Um, the same with the Gothic, the is sorry, the bridge in Central Park. That was pretty neat too.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like this. So, wow, Claudia, did you post all this stuff?
I did, just for the, because for those who
So
have been coming back week after
nice.
week, they can follow all the character names. But for folks who just drop in, they might not know. So I just dropped that. I know we're about to talk about the woke clock, though, and I'm excited about talking about the woke clock.
Yeah, but this is great. This is perfect. Just right. Okay, so yes, let's talk about the woke clock. Look at this nice little graphic there. The woke clock there. So, first off, what I want to do is we want to define what it is that we're talking about. So, um, one second, let me move this mic. I'm moving my hands around a lot while I'm talking, so I'm
What do you
hopefully.
mean by woke?
So, what do I mean by woke? What do I mean? By woke I mean an awareness of injustices committed around you. That can be an injustice committed towards yourself, towards someone you know, towards someone you don't know. Just an awareness, a wakefulness, as it were, or woke. So, I speak in generalizations when we are talking about the woke clock. So let's start. 2 a.m. folks. What do I mean by 2 a.m. folks? 2 a.m. folks are primarily people of marginalized communities. These are people who are aware of their own oppression. But not all woking is the same or equal. So being aware of your own oppression doesn't mean you understand all oppression. That's an important thing, I think, for people to understand. An example is just because I'm black doesn't mean I know what it's like to be gay or Jewish.
No, that's not how it
Or
works at all, Maya. Once you become an expert at one thing, it makes you an expert at all things.
and
That's how that
absolves
works.
you of all responsibility.
And yes, exactly. So if you become like a really, really good baker, then the result is you're automatically good at all cooking and you can make any dish. And if you do something wrong with your dish, like if you make a bad soup, your
Mm-hmm.
soup was actually delicious because you're such a good baker.
Yeah, obviously. That makes sense. So, now next we have 4 a.m. people. Now by 4 a.m. Now, oh, also I should explain. So, when I say woke clock, 2 a.m. people are people who became woke at 2 a.m., 2 o'clock in the morning. They're awake. They're awake to the injustices um, within our communities, within society. The 4 a.m. people, these are people who are waking up a couple of hours later too. And these are people who are aware of wide scale oppression of people that are not them, but also might be them. And I say I put the little addition onto the end because we don't always understand our own oppression right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit more. Maybe you didn't grow up around people like you, so you don't you don't fully understand, and aren't, I guess, fully woke to what's going on. But you're waking up. You are aware. You're aware. You're starting to become aware. You're maybe not as aware as the 2 a.m. folk. Now, 4 a.m. people, folks, they can be allies, because they are aware. of the wide scale oppression of people that are not them. But they aren't necessarily ones. And here's a big thing: they don't get to decide if they are. I like you don't get to decide if you're an ally. The other person gets to decide if you are an ally. That I know that can be difficult sometimes to process. Now, next we have
Maya,
yeah.
is it useful to comment, or should I let you do the entire
No, go for it.
presentation
Go
before
for it.
I?
What's up?
Because you're sparking all kinds of ideas. Well, I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, like the first thing that comes to mind is I have a colleague who rises early, and I actually have always admired that about them. I've clocked that, like, they wake up around 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. They get started really early, and it's part of like a work ethic and a way they do things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I can totally, like, 4 a.m., like being a 4 a.m. person, I can totally see how somebody who woke up at 4 a.m. is like, I got up the earliest, not even realizing that there's been people who just never got to sleep. Like, we don't get to sleep.
Yes. Or well, no, it's like, but we don't get to sleep. We don't get to sleep anymore. We got less sleep than you, and are already starting to get tired.
Like, in some ways, I feel like I'm past the 2 a.m. and I'm in the insomnia
Well,
of being fully conscious.
the thing of it is that it's I'm gonna say it's like 6 o'clock in the evening,
No,
6 or 7 o'clock in
it's
the evening.
okay.
We've been woke or awake since 2 a.m. So you know, we're gonna be tired. We're tired. The night before, exactly. We've been awake since the night before. Like, uh, so now we got our 6 a.m. folks. Our 6 a.m. folks. Um, no, they woke up early. 6 a.m. is
Yeah,
early. These
that
are
is.
these are these are people who are becoming aware of the wide scale oppression of people that are not them. But they may also be indifferent or not know how or if they can help. Um, we have a lot of, and I guess the general, a lot of times the term is well intentioned whites. Um, but this is where we find, oftentimes, where we find the accidental racist, where somebody says a racist thing, and then we have to, and then we have to have this conversation with them about intent versus harm. Now I have a whole other thing to talk about another day to really dive in to intent versus harm. Um, but it's a long discussion to have with somebody who's like, well, I didn't mean to be racist. And you know what? Just take the note and move on. Because this is exhausting. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to have those conversations with 6 a.m. people. And there's a lot of 6 a.m. people nowadays. There are a
Yes.
lot of them because of social media, because of the news, because of protests, because we are we're waking people up. But we've been awake for a really long time and we're very tired.
Maya, Maya, I feel like possibly this is me messing up your, like, I really love this clock. I'm wondering where you would name baby activists. That's me being a middle-aged woman who's been doing this my whole life, being rude to the young activists who are just starting out. I love them. They're so super. I'm on the TikTok. I'm following. I'm loving it. But I'm getting angry at some folks who are spreading misinformation, who have a sloppy analysis, who are getting their information from some really not good source, like some random IG account, and then repeating it as if it's facts, and they're doing it with passion. And I'm like, and also, um, there's another thing about the baby activist where they've got an anger towards me because they know I've been doing this since 2 a.m. Like they just got up. It's not their fault. They were just born. So they were just born, which is why they're baby activists and they're at a similar awakening because they're younger. But they treat me like I somehow messed up and made a bad day for them because I didn't solve the problem before they rose.
I would put them maybe somewhere around 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Okay. I like that.
I wouldn't put them as they're not 6 a.m.s. Even though they are just becoming aware. Now, if this is, I'm saying, like, if we're talking about people who are from marginalized communities, like if they're already from marginalized community, I'm saying that they are a marginalized citizen that are just becoming aware of how marginalized they are. But they also have not, they haven't quite done all the work, and there's this skipping, trying to skip over or skip back in time to be like, no, I'm a 4 or I'm a 2, and it's like, no, and it's okay. We're talking about awareness of oppression, and it's not a contest.
People in the United States treat everything like it's behind
Yes.
as a country. It's very competitive. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the folks who will show up to like when you're like doing a big move and everybody got there at the beginning of the move and they showed up like they slept in, right?
Yeah.
And they showed up and they carried some boxes, but then they'll like try to pretend that
Like
they
they
were
were there
in
the whole time.
and
Yeah.
it's like you helped, but like not the same. And maybe if you come with pizza, like if you show up late and you come with pizza, then it's okay. And but you if you show up late to the move, you got to and also you can't get mad at the people who have been doing the packing
And
and
are
be like,
tired.
"Hey, y'all need to pack more and faster. Don't you know we have to do this move?" And it's just like we've been here for 6 hours. We know. We've been packing. Join us in the packing.
Join us in the packing. Hashtag
Yeah,
join us in the
actually, I
packing.
think that I'd actually rather show up late and tell you how you're labeling everything wrong, and then tell you what you should do is just hire a good moving company.
Yeah, why didn't you guys just hire movers?
Like, why have you been
Oh.
doing it wrong for so long? I know I just woke up. I just woke up and I just got here. But why haven't you fixed everything yet?
I just love that. Because I'm like, okay.
I'm looking at Sarah's comment saying maybe there's 6 a.m. folks, 8 a.m. folks.
Oh, there are. I mean, I'm just ticking off some of the main ones. But it's a clock. So there are seconds and minutes and hours on it. And it's a spectrum. It's not um it's not 2 o'clock. Maybe you might not even be you might not be 2 o'clock. You might be 1 a.m. Maybe you were awake earlier. Who knows? Maybe you're noon.
Or I didn't hear that full sentence.
Oh, I said maybe maybe you've been awake since 1 a.m. Who knows? Like, it's a spectrum. Um, it's a clock. Therefore, it has seconds, minutes, and hours. So it's not necessarily like, so you can have 8 a.m. people, you can have 3 a.m. people, you can have 11 a.m. people. It's all there. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna skip from 6 o'clock, right to 10.
Oh, what happens at 10?
Now, oops, where did it go? Sorry.
I was ready to
There's
keep
10.
talking.
There's
I
10.
realized there was more time. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So, 10 a.m. You might notice I put a big little no thingy on there. So I have some opinions on our 10 a.m. folks. 10 a.m. folks, I define as these people. These are people who are discovering that folks might be getting treated differently. But it's not due to any systemic oppression, it's just anecdotal and individual. These aren't people who are ready to engage in honest discourse. Walk away. Scroll on. These aren't people that are ready for those talks. They need to wake up more. Yeah, they need to they need to drink some coffee and wake up a little bit. Some of the racism coffee. I don't know. But they're not ready for honest discourse. You can't have an honest conversation with them. There's the graphic for that. No. And that's difficult. That's difficult sometimes. Now, I often, when I comment on misinformation, I'm not engaging the other person in conversation. I will refute their information, but I will not engage with them. I will, if they're saying, what's something not true? I can't think of something that's not true. Anybody? Sarah? Well, it doesn't
hey,
matter.
audience members, help us out in the chat.
Yeah, what's something that's not true?
I can. Well, I'm actually trying to figure out who in my life is a 10 a.m. person. Somebody like I love this. Yes, the I don't see color. Yes. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
Is that a good one?
Yes.
Okay. So in real life, then that would be the equivalent of I've been hired by an organization because they know they have a problem. The organization knows it has a problem and it recognizes that it's losing people because they have a bunch of racism happening. So they're losing workers, they're losing money, and people are unhappy. So they've called me in. It's 10 a.m. for that institution.
Correct.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But
maybe it's 6 a.m. for the institution, but it's actually 10 a.m. for the board president who's there.
It could be. Well, I mean, the thing is that I don't know if I would necessarily put the clock on an institution. But if I would say that institution would be a 10 a.m. Because why haven't they been doing this earlier? And they're only doing it because some people are unhappy, not because of the widespread systemic oppression that has been happening in our country, not because people are being murdered, not I mean, that's why I say it seems like they're thinking
in
that
an institution, what you have is a bunch of people who are on different clocks. And institutionally, what organizations have to do is they're like, or at least what they're attempting to do when they hire someone like myself, or they start their equity, diversity, and inclusion committees. What they're trying to do is actually get all of their clocks to be at the same time, because the institution can't function if they're all working in different time zones.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I need your affirmation to know if I'm using your metaphor right, because I'm finding this woke clock kind of amazing, Maya.
Yes, you do need to get everyone needs to be synced for any of the work to actually be fruitful. Now, Sarah had a question about would fetishism fit at 10 a.m. And I would say not necessarily, because people are complicated. But again, as far as a generalization, I would say tokenism would fit anywhere between 6 and 10. Somewhere between 6 and 10. Because you might also... you might have someone who is, like we said when I was talking about the 6 a.m. people who are just becoming aware, but they don't really know how to help. And they don't even, and the accidental racists, they don't even know the harm that they are, that they are engaging in. And so then that's where I think that's where we would fit in, fetishism, tokenism, and a lot of a model minority.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about like the metaphor of, if the building is on fire, your 2 a.m. person knows what fire is, has been studying the fire, understands how to put fires out, and is actually getting the equipment to put the fire out.
And has been burned a couple of times. So they know what the impact of the fire is as well.
Yes. Okay. So then your 4 a.m. person has just shown up, but they understand firefighting techniques. They see what you're doing, and they're ready to help. They can't actually say, they can't organize how to put the fire out because they just showed up. But they can follow your directions and help put the fire out.
Yes.
6 a.m. people, they're like the neighbor that's like, oh my gosh, oh, they're smoking stuff. Oh, there's a fire. They stepped out. They're looking. They're like, should I call like a firefighter? Like you're actively putting the fire out. They just showed up.
Do you need help? Should I help?
Yeah,
am I in the way? Should I leave?
10 a.m. is your neighbors that are still in their homes. They look out the window. They smelled some smoke, so they looked out the window. They see that there's stuff going on. And they're concerned about getting burned themselves at some point.
But they're not. I mean, they're not. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a fire just because there's smoke. I mean, there might be a small fire, but that's not.
They're having a conversation with
building.
Everybody in their house about the fire that's happening next door. They might be complaining about why somebody hasn't put it out yet. Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Very well said. Yeah, that is very true. These fires are everywhere. You literally could grab a fire extinguisher right now. Yeah, I don't really feel like that's my place. Also, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Well, and also, fires happen. Like, fire is a thing. Fires happen. In some context, fire can be good. So who am I to even judge that fire that's happening, that's actively burning my neighbors and might burn my building? It's not burning my building yet. So let's keep thinking and talking about it. Let's be reasonable.
Also, I mean, have we heard the fire side?
And here we are, 2 a.m. We've been putting this fire out since 2 a.m. We've got buckets. We're doing all this stuff. Got these folks. They showed up at 10 a.m.
You need to stop putting out this fire and think about what the fire might need. Because there are two sides to the story. I like how we kind of slipped into a different analogy with that. We were using the analogy.
I'm using your clock analogy. I'm going to be using your woke clock analogy with all of my other metaphors for racism now. Because I'm like, oh, this helps me. Like, the idea is I have a metaphor for, this is what dealing with racism is like. And what you just gave me is the storytelling mechanic of, this is what happens when the story starts at 2 a.m. And then somebody shows up at 6 a.m. to be like, hey, what's going on? And then another person shows.
What are you guys doing? What's going on?
Just the 2 a.m. and the 4 a.m. people have been trying to put this fire out for a while. You can join us. And then folks at noon, somebody at noon is like, hey, would you please stop doing whatever you're doing to tell me what fire is? I'm willing to learn. Put your water down and teach me what how do you spell fire?
Okay, so my cousin's boyfriend was burned by fire once. Is that the kind of fire you're talking about? Because that fire was put out. So fire is gone. Also, I heard that we elected a fireman as president. So I think we're okay.
It's true. It's true. If there's a fireman as president, if a fireman's president, there are no fires.
Exactly.
Fire has been solved. Exactly.
Fire has been solved.
I really want to go. I want to play the game. But before we go to play the game, I want to ask you a few more questions about this woke clock.
Yes.
So, if can people fall back asleep? Like if I've been fighting fire since 2 a.m., is there ever a point where it's like, am I again, like I was saying that I feel like I'm living through what insomnia must feel like. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I have, the insomnia of having been woke for so long. But can you go back to sleep? Like,
No.
is no.
Here's the thing is that, like, you can take a nap if you need to.
Mm.
That's like taking a
Mhm.
day off. But the thing is that once you are awake, you can't go back to sleep. It is like it,
Mm.
I mean, you can't go back to sleep. You can take a nap, but you're awake. Like that's
Yeah.
just how it is. And you've been awake since however long, since 2 in the morning. And that's really exhausting. And sometimes you need to like take a step back, and take a little bit of a nap. And there's nothing wrong with that because we don't have to be on and be doing the fight every day and every hour. Because we've been up since 2 o'clock in the morning and it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So if I
Well,
want to take a nap,
yeah.
then I'm going to take a nap and I'll wake up and I'll do it again later.
And I think it's really important to keep in mind how long we've been doing this.
Yes.
Because I think that we judge ourselves for not doing enough or not feeling like we're doing enough. And I got a name. I see so many people from marginalized communities. The other thing I like about the woke clock is that it covers anti-racism, it covers ableism, it covers heterosexism. So your woke clock actually covers it's useful in a bunch of different conversations, which is why I like this. Because I can have a woke clock conversation around trans identity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also just thinking about like I did take your woke clock idea and expand it to not only think about individuals but an institution.
And I
And
like
then I
that.
just
I like that because I didn't think of it in terms of institutions. I was always thinking of it in terms of the individual. But well, institutions are made of often hundreds of individuals
yeah.
that
But I'm
wield a lot of
also
power.
but it's also like whose clock are you being forced to work on?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking about what it's like to like when I've had jobs that required me to get up at weird times of the day and like work weird hours and how my stomach hurt, how my body was like, "Oh, this is not the right schedule for your body. This is hurting your body." And I'm wondering how many people are inside institutions that are 10 a.m. institutions, but they're 2 a.m. Black people. They're 2 a.m. disabled people. They
Mm-hmm.
know what's wrong, but they're inside an institution that's at 10 a.m. And so there's like what's it called when you're doing a time zone and you feel funky?
Jet lag.
Jet lag. Yeah. It's the equity, diversity, and inclusion jet lag of the woke clock.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Well, that's the woke clock. I've been working
Hey.
on this woke clock for several years. I believe the first time I was just like, I think I was just chit chatting with you probably, and came up with this analogy. Um,
Yeah, I believe that you had this as a random idea and were like, this is such a good idea that you text messaged it to me. And then I also in that moment was like, that's a really good idea. And in this conversation, I've actually started to go, oh, I need to integrate this into all of my trainings. Like this is really useful.